I'm hoping I'm pronouncing his name correctly, Davion in Texas. Did I get your name correct?
Davion.
Davion. Okay.
Yes.
Welcome to the show, Davion.
Right on. How y'all doing? Man, this is
Just fine.
crazy.
How you
My
doing?
first time calling in. Okay.
Well, thank you.
Welcome to the show. And so it says here it can't be reasonable to not presuppose a God.
Yes, sir. That's
So many negatives.
Okay. So why is it reasonable to presuppose a God?
Oh man, where would I start, man? Okay, I mean, I was an atheist at one point. I haven't even been to the show for a while now. The coming out of atheism. I used to watch Matt and Tracy and all of them for a very long time. But even when I was an atheist, I always and I hope that nobody takes this as an insult or anything. But to me, I always would say to myself, I'm still smart enough to presuppose some type of deism. You know what I mean? Some type of vague deism.
Okay.
I just don't
Based on
get
what?
how. Yeah, I just.
I said okay. You presuppose
I
deism.
don't get how. Yeah, for sure. I don't get how anybody does it. So when you say presuppose a God, that doesn't necessarily mean Christianity. Although I am a Christian, and I don't.
Right.
It doesn't necessarily mean Christians or Muslims or heck even Hindus, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't. It's not.
Well, you said something interesting. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Jim.
No. Go ahead, Mike.
Oh, I was just say you said something interesting that I think you said I don't know how anybody couldn't presuppose deism. I don't.
Yeah.
And the one I think I'd ask you, do you think it's a good method to be under the judgment that we can conceive of things, and until then it's conceptual, and then until you add something like a prediction or something in the future that we could expect to see, right? That it's just conception and only conception, right? Does that make sense that you would need some further thing to distinguish conception from reality? Because that's the reason why I don't presuppose God or believe in a God. There's no reason to, right?
I'm following you to an extent, but I'm not all the way following you. Well, maybe it could help if I said why I did. And I know, I mean, you guys.
Well, the idea is just sure, but the idea, real quick, is just that we can all make things up in our head, and you need some methodology to distinguish that being reflective of the reality that we live. And so the reason why I don't presuppose God or believe in a God is because it's precisely just that, conceptual without the methodology that would be required for me to be reasonable to believe it.
Well, I would think my response to that is I would think you would have a good, strong argument there if I, said the God of the wind is my God or something. You know what I'm saying? Stuff like that. Yeah, anybody could just make up anything. But I'm talking about something just like your human body alone. Just the complexity of your human body and how well everything works together. I mean, I once heard Matt kind of shred the argument just talking about the human eye and just kind of reducing it like it was nothing, like it's not, just magnificent how we're made, just us, period. You know what I mean? The fact that a man and woman can create life, to think
sure.
That's all.
So we have two things. One, we have two things. One, we could agree, right, that this is a beautiful experience and all that, and then we could go. The conclusion of that is it's natural. I don't see a contradiction in that, and then we can conclude that it's because of God. I don't see a contradiction in that. But I can see the world around me, and I don't see a God or a deist. So, right, wouldn't you need the extra thing to be reasonable, or at least some kind of evidence pointing to it, right? Because I have evidence for the natural world. I have evidence of seeing a process of the brain develop, and kind of what Jim said prior. We have you can look at this almost on minimalistic levels of different species and see kind of gradual processes within intermediate species. So it seems to fit the data in one sense, but the other sense seems to have the precisely the thing that you're wanting to get to is like completely absent from the picture, and even just the evidence part.
Sure, but is it absent, or is it that we're trying to perceive it with our five senses? Well, you know, what touch, taste, smell. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, is it absent, or is there another way that we can figure this thing out that we like don't want to embrace because we don't accept the methodology? What if there is a spiritual way that we can figure these things out?
So the problem with that is that science will accept any methodology that consistently returns the same result. So if you put the same inputs into it, you'll get the same outputs. So if you want to say there's another methodology for examining the supernatural or the spiritual, whatever you want to call it, then what we need is a reliable way to test it and a reliable methodology to do so. And we don't have that methodology. Prayer does not work at any better rate than the rate of chance every time it's tested. So we don't see prayer working. Somebody, you know, we have had multiple people. That is fair. In a double-blind test, people praying for a medical recovery had no better effect on the outcome than random chance. How is that prayer working?
Well, I want to say that's not. I understand that like method, but I want to say it's not fair because you're trying to do something spiritual and you don't know the spiritual position of those people. You don't know the faith of those people.
Well, I'm not the one who
people's lives.
Right. But see, the problem that I have is that it's not me coming up with this. I'm saying you or any other spiritual person or proponent of the supernatural needs to come up with this methodology. You're right. I don't know. Just like I don't know how to create an experiment for quantum physics. I don't know how to do that. But the people who do need to do that, and they've failed when they've tried it.
Yeah, and real quick, like just to tack on what Jim's saying, because on Truth Wanted, I made this exact same point, and I just enjoy this analogy. But like, we're not saying that you couldn't come up with some methodology, and I'm sympathetic to like, because I like philosophy, so there's lots of things that I'm very open to that I don't think a lot of people would expect on the surface level. And so I'm completely open to like you having this methodology, but the way I relate this is like, we're both in a lot. We're making we're constructing our buildings, okay? And we're using a tool like a hammer that we know is repeated. It's successful. I can build foundations. I can build cities with it. And I look over at you and like, or maybe not you, but the person proposing this idea, and they're coming up to us and saying, well, don't you know you could use something else other than the hammer? And I'm going, sweet. What is the other tool, right? And I look over at your lot. There's nothing being built. I ask you like, hey, can you take me to Home Depot and show me what aisle the tool's in? We can't even do that. I can't even like put it to my tongue and know if it has like a metallic taste, right? I have nothing of substance to know what this other tool looks like. Yet I'm expected to listen to it, or without evidence, which is strange, or without a demonstration of the methodology. And then further, the people that say this, they have to get on our city infrastructure that we built with the hammer and use that in order to even profess their issues with that method in the first place. And it's like, I'm okay with it, but like, why are we doing this to a clearly successful method?
I want to know what you built though. Like, I love the argument, but in order for it to make complete sense,
science of medicine. Like, look at it this way: faith and prayer did not get my grandma her medication at 3 at the time that she needs to take it. Right? It didn't get me on AXP by praying for like a camera crew to pop up and like a webcam. Well, I guess I could say Greg, is God in some way. So maybe that's not the best analogy to use, but look, from what we're going through now with vaccines, like if you had every Christian in the world pray for some like anything at all, right, for a decline in COVID, right, you would not get vaccines out of that process. Right? That's the cities that I'm talking about. And what I'm talking about is people they'll get on the rooftops of our structure and shout, all day long that there's some other methodology we need to listen to, or that faith would work better, or that prayer would work better. Yeah. And I say that sounds like a bunch of bullshit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I did too at one point. I did too. But, I mean, I get what you're saying. But that's why I was asking, okay, like, give me a good example about the building here, and we're building this on the left, but then you compared it to medicine. So I get what you're trying to say. Like, okay, we would take a Christian or a believer or something would take credit for something science does, like medicine, which can actually heal somebody or, make the sick unsick. And you're saying we can't prove that a prayer can do the same thing.
But what does spirituality
do for you? No, we're always left
you?
with the how.
Yeah. What does spirituality or prayer do for you? Or what does spirituality do for you? What is its mechanism for working? How do you get it to work?
How do you get it to work? Well, you guys make some good arguments here, but the thing is, it's hard to tell an atheist, even when I was one, it's hard to tell them that, you have to look at things with like a certain type of spiritual insight. You have to have a certain spiritual insight to even
How do I do that?
Look at certain things to diagnose certain issues. How do you do that? Well, let me ask you this. Do you think all around the world, like people, even people that are Satanists, people that believe in, just other stuff, period. Do you think like this, like spiritual type of experience that people have, have reported to have all around the world throughout the history of mankind, do you think they're just all delusional and just want this to be true? Like I said, I was an atheist, I've listened
I don't think they're delusional. I don't think they're delusional. Yeah. I would like to know what their experience is, and I would like to know what you mean by spiritual, because one of the things we haven't talked about is what you mean by that. And mostly because every time I try and have this conversation about spiritual, I don't know about Jmike, but nobody can define it, right? And so someone can say they had a spiritual experience. Two people can say they had a spiritual experience, and neither one of them agree what that experience was. So, but if we just want to talk in general, people having spiritual experiences, so far, the data that I have tells me that there is a natural explanation for that and not a spiritual one.
Yeah, and I don't know if you're looking at the screen, but really long hair. So probably wouldn't, be off the wall to say, I used to consider myself spiritual. I guarantee you we didn't mean the same things by it, because the New Age spiritualism compared to what I kind of had in my own personal beliefs was nowhere the same. Probably not even the same, presumably for you to them as well, or across to me. I believed in that. I no longer do. And I've applied as much critical thinking as I possibly can. And I still can't tell you what the fuck I really believed in. It was just like feelings that I put in a box of like, I'll explain it here because, it just wasn't, it was having a lack of critical thinking. And I noticed it when I started buying into conspiracy theories, or when I couldn't defend globe Earth and was like, well, crap, now I think the Earth is flat. And I went and, that was, I think, the first time I applied some critical thinking, and it started for me. Right. So my issue is like, when you buy into the spiritual thing, if you're like me at all, then you're susceptible to delusion. Like, I would consider myself delusional at that time. I won't say that's the case for everybody else, but you're susceptible to being delusional. And because you've allowed this faulty way of reasoning into your method of reasoning, then it can creep up at any time and be used as some form of justification when in fact it never was. And so, that's the thing is to. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, my bad. Go ahead. Finish. Oh no.
No. I was finished. I was finished. You're good.
Okay. Well, the thing is, I thought that way too, even about other people. I mean, it's not. I'm not saying by no means that it's just easy to believe in what you can't see, but I do think, as I'm gonna put myself in my atheist shoes, like in that mindset, when I did think like that. When I studied Christopher Hitchens, when I studied Sam Harris, when I studied Matt, when I studied all of these guys, right? I do think what you're saying is very true for a lot of people. You know, you are susceptible to, you know, being deluded and to just believe in anything. And you don't want to be credulous, but at the same time, you don't want to just completely ignore everyone's and just people all around the world who will tell you they've had personal experiences. It's not, you know, there are people there.
Yeah, I can't take it away from them.
You know, they have.
Yeah, I can't take that away from them, you know, but we can we can get them to investigate, possibly. So,
right. And personal experience is the worst form of evidence that we have, because we can't prove that they are interpreting the event correctly. That's the problem.
Yeah, I get it. I know, but it's not that you can't prove it. Yeah, I mean, sure, you can't prove it. I agree with that. The thing is, do you negate it though?
Well, here, let me.
It's as wise as we think it is to negate that.
I'm not negating it. I think Jay and Mike are both saying very specifically the same thing. These people had the experience. We're not debating that. What we're saying is that we don't agree with the interpretation of the experience being supernatural.
Nor could it have any motivational impact on your beliefs, because it's necessarily first person, right? If I told you, hey, actually, hold on real quick. I was actually just revealed all the information. I had a personal experience. And by the way, David, you're wrong. Right?
What do you mean?
I'm saying I just now had a revelation, right? Naturalism spoke to me. There are no gods. You're wrong. Okay. Now, did my revelation and experience, was that convincing to you in any way?
Of course not.
Exactly. So someone's anecdotal testimony about an experience, it sounds absurd when we flip it that way, right? Oh, I had an experience and like there are no gods. Will you take my experience? It doesn't motivate the other person because it's necessarily first person.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I agree with that. I think that's just a rational argument. Like I can't disagree with that, because I mean I felt the same way until I had the experiences. Now, you know, that made a difference. So I was like, okay,
sure,
everybody's not just crazy, you know, because
and I can't take that away from you. Yeah, you know,
right. But I get it. It's not convincing for the other guy on the other side, which I don't. But see, well, you know, I forgot his name. He just chimed in. He said, you know, he was like defining spirituality and all of that. Well, for me personally, it would be in regards to being a Christian, you know, that whole concept. So that's anything.
Right. There's over 1,000 different denominations. Davion, there's over 1,000 different denominations, and you may be 1,001 for all.
Over 1,000 different Bibles. There's not 1,000 different Bibles though.
There's a 1,000 different, right? But there's 1,000 different interpretations of that Bible, and they all fundamentally disagree on what they mean. So I'm not sure that really gets you anywhere.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's hard to argue that stuff. Like that really does suck for people on this side. But I think that's just a result of man. But at the same time,
I agree, it's a result of man.
It's just like. Yeah. Well, you're an atheist, so you think we're all crazy anyway. But,
no, I don't think you're crazy.
At the same time, though, well, you know, I don't mean crazy. I just mean you don't think our experience, like you said, or like one of you said, you don't think it's interpreted the right way.
Correct.
So, you know.
Yeah, David. I want to make.
We're crazy.
No, I want to express that very, very specifically. I don't. You seem very like. You seem epistemically humble. You seem like you care, you know, to the degree that a lot of people, I think, in the other position, or at least I can say for myself, did not. So I like have immediate, just immense amount of respect for you in the way that you because I've overtalked you a bunch. You've conducted yourself very well. So I don't think nothing negative in that sense at all. I actually even have in the live chat here. I had it typed up, but I didn't. I thought I pressed enter, but I was like, I really like this guy because I enjoy when someone listens and they go, I see your point, and then here's my objection to that. I really appreciate the way you conduct the conversation.
Yeah, that's a really good way to have a conversation. Definitely appreciate it. But
thank you, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Davion. We appreciate the call.
All right, man. Y'all take it easy.
All righty.
You
Bye.
too.